Can you pass this human body quiz? Most people can't answer these 50 simple questions. The questions get harder as you go. If you are ready, let's get started! Which organ pumps blood throughout the body? Heart. How many lungs does a healthy human usually have? Two. Which bone protects the brain? Skull. Which organ helps you breathe? Lungs. What is the largest organ of the human body? Skin. Which organ is responsible for thinking? Brain. Which bone is found in the upper arm? Humerus. Which organ produces urine? Kidneys. What carries blood away from the heart? Arteries. Which part of the eye controls the amount of light entering? Pupil. Which bone is commonly called the kneecap? Patella. Which organ stores bile? Gallbladder. Which chamber of the heart pumps oxygen-rich blood to the body? Left ventricle. Which blood vessel carries blood from the heart to the lungs? Pulmonary artery. Which part of the digestive system absorbs most nutrients? Small intestine. Which bone is the longest in the human body? Femur. Which gland produces insulin? Pancreas. Which part of the brain controls balance? Cerebellum. Which blood cells help fight infections? White blood cells. Which organ filters toxins from the blood? Liver. Which bone forms the lower jaw? Mandible. Which structure connects muscles to bones? Tendons. Which part of the ear is responsible for hearing? Cochlea. Which valve separates the left atrium from the left ventricle? Mitral valve. Which organ produces most digestive enzymes? Pancreas. Which cranial nerve is responsible for the sense of smell? Olfactory nerve. Which heart valve prevents blood from flowing back into the left ventricle? Aortic valve. Which type of joint is found in the shoulder? Ball and socket joint. Which part of the nephron filters blood? Glomerulus. Which bone is located on the thumb side of the forearm? Radius. Which brain region regulates breathing and heart rate? Medulla oblongata. Which hormone lowers blood glucose levels? Insulin. Which tissue connects bone to bone? Ligament. Which chamber receives oxygen-rich blood from the lungs? Left atrium. Which part of the eye contains light-sensitive cells? Retina. Which organ is part of both the digestive and endocrine system? Pancreas. Which vertebrae support the neck? Cervical. Which muscle is the primary muscle used for breathing? Diaphragm. Which heart chamber has the thickest muscular wall? Left ventricle. Which cranial nerve controls most eye movements? Oculomotor nerve. Which lobe of the brain is primarily responsible for vision? Occipital lobe. Which electrolyte is most abundant inside human cells? Potassium. Which vessel supplies oxygenated blood directly to the heart muscle? Coronary arteries. Which bone is also known as the collarbone? Clavicle. Which structure prevents food from entering the windpipe during swallowing? Epiglottis. Which blood protein is mainly responsible for carrying oxygen? Hemoglobin. Which endocrine gland is often called the master gland? Pituitary gland. Which part of the small intestine is the first section after the stomach? Duodenum. Which membrane surrounds the lungs? Pleura. Which structure is the functional unit of the kidney? Nephron. Thanks for playing along! Did you have fun? Don't forget, let us know how well you did in the comments. See you in the next quiz!